Okay. Right. We're all back in the room, so to speak. We've discussed what we've heard so far this morning. We've talked about it, and it's our view as a standards committee that there has been a breach of the code. So would there be any representations as to whether we should be imposing a sanction for this breach? I was going to ask the Ombudsman first.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. At this point, it is for the Standards Committee to consider whether a sanction is appropriate. There are a number of things that will need to be considered when, including mitigating and aggravating factors. The Adjudication Panel for Wales issues guidance on its approach to standards, to sanctions, and I'm just going to make some reference to that to give you an idea of the framework that's generally used. The purpose of sanctions are built on the values that underpin the Code of Conduct, in particular the fundamental importance of promoting the highest standards in local public life. The guidance aims to assist tribunals in determining sanctions that are, in all cases, fair, proportionate and consistent. The APW follows a 5-step process where they assess the seriousness of the breach and any consequences for individuals and the council, identify the broad type of sanction, consider any relevant mitigating or aggravating factors, consider any further adjustment to ensure that sanction achieves an appropriate effect in terms of fulfilling the purpose of the sanction, and then they confirm the decision and explain the reasons. In respect of the seriousness of a breach, the panel has set out the matters it may consider, and these include the nature and extent of the breaches and number of breaches, the members' culpability, their intentions on breaching the code and any previous breaches of the code, the actual and potential consequences of the breach for any individual, the wider public or the council as a whole, and the extent to which the members' actions are or are likely to have the potential to bring his or her office into disrepute. Firstly, I'd like to set out the mitigation in this case. Councillor Aspey has a previous record of good service over a long period of time. In this case, we're referring to a single breach of the code. The member appears to have been motivated by a desire to assist the action group and obtain support and finances to deal with this issue. There was no personal financial gain from the fundraising for the member. The aggravating factors in this case are that the member has attended regular training on the Code of Conduct throughout his term of office. A number of people were misled into handing over money to the action group when there was no need for them to do so. It also led to negative attention for the council, requiring the council to have to put out a statement to correct the position. The misleading information may affect the trust that members of the public have for the office of member. And the member has failed to acknowledge that the letter was misleading, and neither has he suggested that if the situation arose again, he would take alternative course of action beyond changing paragraph 1. This doesn't recognise his part in leading people to believe that they needed to give money to fight something that never actually then happened. And it's the Ombudsman's view that this brought the office and the authority into disrepute, and this has now been found by the Standards Committee. Given the impact on the authority and public confidence in the member and his lack of contrition, I would respectfully suggest that taking no action would not be appropriate in this case. The Ombudsman would invite the committee to consider a censure as the minimum sanction to foster public confidence in local democracy. Councillor Aspey has been found to have brought his office and authority into disrepute, which is a serious breach of the Code of Conduct. Having assessed the seriousness of the breach and the mitigating and aggravating factors, I would invite the committee to consider whether it would be appropriate for Councillor Aspey to be suspended from the council for a short period. The committee should notice that it's noted in the APW guidance that a suspension of less than 1 month is unlikely to meet the objectives of the sanctions regime and risks undermining its overall ambition. Those are the Ombudsman's submissions on sanction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Aspey, do you have any submissions to make?
Yes, I mean, as I said, you know, I know the committee has found, in terms of its legality, You know, I know BCBC's shared regulatory services didn't have any issue. I understand the impact, obviously, of the wording of the letter. There was never any deliberate intent on my part to mislead residents. You know, I've acted in good faith and willingly supported them right the way through. I'm not one of them type of people to walk away, because I look at the wider impact, not just on the local area, but Porthcawl in general. And the fact the town is, you know, struggled very badly over recent years, and there are good signs to see it starting to come back. For me personally, it would have been an adverse impact on tourism. If there is any construed, and I'm pretty sure, obviously, from what the Ombudsman has stated, then from my part, I sincerely apologise and will apply myself more diligently in any future correspondence that would come my way. I don't breach data rules. You know, I've always, it's my third term now with this authority. I've never had any issues with anything previously, and some of them were quite sensitive as well. You know, protecting breaches of data, and obviously the feedback subsequently from people I've spoken to locally, not just the residents in the immediate vicinity, but in the larger town. They said, you know, you always stand up for us, Sean, and I'll continue to do so. Perhaps I would have approached, you know, anything in future with a different aspect if it's something that I've not started, something I've not set out to campaign for. I'm going to have to be more extremely careful in any future things that may come my way, because I've no intention of breaching code of conduct rules. You know, I've had some training throughout the years, and you know, I'd like to consider myself as a really good person for his community. You know, I set off for a particular reason. Porthcawl was falling behind quite significantly, and you know, the reason why I'm here is the fact that I want to make sure that this town progresses in the 21st century, and it's still languishing in the 20th. But obviously, recent things now, it's all down to our efforts and galvanising those community people that we're pushing the town forward, and I'd like to continue to do that. But obviously, on this particular one, it's just I've been caught out in terms of, you know, I'd never set out anything financially. You know, it's cost me a lot of time, and I'm happy to do that because that's one of the reasons why I was elected. And I'll make sure that I represent those people that voted, you know, at the election. Obviously, we had the election back in May 2022. If they had serious problems with the way that I am or the way I act, then I have no doubt whatsoever I would not have been re-elected in any stretch of the imagination. You know, when people have come up to me at the polling station, we always vote for a certain party, but we vote for you because we trust you, Sean. You're from Porthcawl, and that's what I'd like to continue to do. But obviously, it's up to yourselves. I can only mitigate from and apologise to the Standards Committee and the Ombudsman. It's certainly not my intention to mislead anybody in any shape or form, and always give good advice and guidance wherever I can. And if I can't help, I will say to them straight away that, you know, it's not my league, but I can point you in the right direction to somebody that might. And that's the way I've approached things, you know, all the way through. Certain things, reference potholes and herbs and things, I have a good go at, but other things which are more personal in terms of mental anxieties and things like that, I'm not a specialist, and I put my hands up straight away and say that we need to get you to so-and-so, or you need to speak to this person here. They're the specialist people that can help. So, you know, I do consider things not straight away. It takes me good 2 or 3 days to form something myself. So, you know, I'd like to think I'm a considerate person, and always wanted to represent the community and continue to do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Right, Kelly, I'm going to sum up and you correct me when I'm wrong. We've heard the facts of this case, and we've heard representations from both parties, from Councillor Aspey and from the Ombudsman. Having heard those, we've considered what we should do. We've done that, and we've found a verdict, and the verdict was that there was a breach of the codes of conduct. We've just now listened to representations from both parties in terms of mitigation and aggravation. And having heard that, we are now going to go back into a private session so we can decide what our, for the want of a better word, what the sentence will be. So have I got that right, Kelly?
Yes, Chair, the panel's now going to retire to consider whether any sanction is necessary, and if it is necessary, what that sanction will be.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, so Mark, if you could arrange for us to go back into private, please.
Yes, if the Ombudsman representative